There were so many soldiers that they filled the whole sky. When the last soldier showed respect, the Shadow Monarch turned around and quietly disappeared. Because the Shadow Fang and White Lightning Monarchs were fighting each other, they eventually lost to the rulers. They ran away with the soldiers they had left through a special opening between worlds. Jinwoo was amazed when he saw the monarch soldiers walking through a giant gate. He wondered how so many soldiers were still left after the fighting. He couldn't imagine how many soldiers had died for the amusement of the powerful being they served. He understood why the leaders had decided to fight against their master. But then the Shadow Monarch reappeared. The other leaders became worried about a possible fight between him and the Fang Monarch. But the Dragon King stepped in before it could happen. Now is the time to rebuild our weakened armies. And I won't let you two fight, even with what happened before. The Dragon King welcomed the Shadow Monarch back to their group. Seeing the Dragon King in his human-like form made Jinwoo nervous. Even though he knew he was watching a memory, it's the King of Wild Dragons, the Monarch of Destruction. Jinwoo could tell just by looking at his eyes that the Dragon King had incredible power. The monarchs had escaped through openings in different dimensions, and were looking for a new world to rebuild their army, where the rulers couldn't find them. Different planets and galaxies quickly appeared before Jinwoo's eyes. Before stopping on one planet, Jinwoo couldn't help but be amazed. Oh, a beautiful blue planet Earth shone in the middle of the dark space. The monarchs had worked hard to find a way to Earth. When these creatures arrived, it would be a disaster for people. Jinwoo was shocked to see cities destroyed, just like the ones he had seen inside the demon's castle dungeon. Is this what will happen in the future? It is what already happened in the past. Jinwoo was confused by the unexpected answer. The Shadow Monarch calmly explained what he meant. The leaders found out about the monarch's plans too late, and sent their soldiers, but it didn't matter anymore. If the monarchs wanted to cause destruction, the leaders wanted to keep everything safe. That's how they kept the universe in balance. The rulers were very angry to see the monarchs escape and destroy another world. To fix this, they used a dangerous tool. Before they fought against the most powerful being, they had secretly stolen the Cup of Rebirth from him. It was a remarkable object that could turn back time by 10 years. 10 years. Was it luck that strange portals and powerful beings had started showing up in his world, exactly 10 years before? It seemed likely that was the reason. The powerful leaders had tried their best to keep Earth safe, but Earth wasn't strong enough to survive a war between them and the even more powerful rulers. Earth did not have enough power to last through the fighting. Whoever won the battle, either the rulers or the monarchs, the planet would still be destroyed. After fighting the same battle many times, the rulers decided to do something different. If they couldn't save everyone, they would find a way to save enough people to keep the world going. So you're saying, they figured out a way to make people who could survive the fight between the powerful beings. The leaders tried to help people by keeping things hidden. Then Jinwoo understood why they had worked in secret, not talking directly to humans. Even though they knew something bad was coming, only a few people called hunters would be able to survive in this new world. Would things have been okay if everyone had known that most people were going to be in danger, except for this small group of hunters? No way. Jinwoo thought hard. He had finally learned why gates and hunters existed. But he still had one big question. The Shadow Monarch seemed to know what Jinwoo was thinking, and with a wave of his hand, changed everything around them. He explained that powerful beings like rulers or monarchs could sense when time had been changed, using the Cup of Reincarnation. However, the Shadow Monarch also said they couldn't actually control time itself. As the powerful leaders fixed their errors, the kings changed their strategies. This process would go on until the special powerful object stopped working. Wait a minute. Does the Cup of Rebirth have limits? Nothing lasts forever. Every power has a weakness, just like the greatest being eventually ended because of what he made. The sadness in the Shadow King's voice made Jinwoo turn to look at him. Now that you say that, how could something created actually defeat its maker? It's not too different from people being harmed by things they themselves invent. That made sense. Machines made to help people could also cause trouble, depending on how they were used. This is why people were worried about artificial intelligence. Even though people created it, we were made to fight, and we were given enough power to even harm our creators. Jinwoo understood this idea. He noticed some of the monarchs in the pictures that appeared. By watching what the rulers did, the monarchs came up with a plan, just like the rulers had given power to humans, so they could spread magic by defeating magical creatures. The monarchs decided to use human bodies, Once they got used to Earth, they would bring their armies here sooner than the rulers expected. The monarchs wanted to turn Earth into a giant trap, using the magic power the rulers had released. That way they could defeat the rulers' armies when they came to help people. That is right. The monarchs were very powerful, so they needed human bodies to come to this world. One by one, each of the monarchs found human bodies to live in. However, the monarch of destruction, and the shadow monarch, could not find anyone strong enough. Their powers were too great for any human to handle. Then, a powerful wizard who worked for the monarch of transformation offered to help the shadow monarch find a suitable human. That wizard was known as the architect. He helped the shadow monarch with a task, hoping to live forever. The shadow monarch was curious about the human world and agreed to the deal. Sadly, no human was strong enough to handle the power of death. One person, however, could feel magic very strongly. Some people were very strong. Others were incredibly smart. But none of them could control my power, and it either made them lose their minds, or it killed them. No one who lived could ever truly control death. Making a deal with a powerful being wasn't simple, and as time went on, the architect became more and more worried. But as the architect looked for others who could help, one person stood out to the shadow monarch. Jinwoo looked up and saw hundreds of screens showing pictures of him. The shadow monarch said, "I saw you almost die many times." This was during the 4 years when Jinwoo was a very new hunter, considered one of the weakest. He often put himself in danger by going into dark caves, but he kept going because of his mother and sister. Jinwoo bravely faced many difficult challenges and always found a way to survive. The shadow monarch remembered those 4 hard years. "I picked you even though someone else didn't want me to." Jinwoo's heart beat fast as the shadow monarch pointed at him. "I know all about your struggles, your fight to keep going, and everything you went through." The shadow monarch wasn't talking about Jinwoo now, that he was a special player, but about his life before, when things were much harder. Each word the monarch said echoed in his heart. "The worried architect did what I asked and contacted you. The 2 dungeons, the survival tests, the player, all of it was part of the architect's plan to create a new body for the shadow monarch. The architect had plenty of time to study people during the many times the loops repeated. From this he figured out he could build a system around something people really enjoy to help them get used to my great strength. A popular hobby. That meant video games were the reason the system was made this way. Jinwoo was the only one who had succeeded in this experiment. The architect used my power to create the system, and the system slowly changed your body to make it fit what I needed. But you went against the architect, didn't you? Jinwoo remembered the angel statue from the special dungeon that was upset because the shadow monarch had tricked the other monarchs. The shadow monarch had ended his agreement with the architect, and now supported Jinwoo. "Why did you make that decision?" Jinwoo asked. The shadow monarch was quiet for a moment. He seemed to be thinking carefully, so Jinwoo waited patiently. "I simply wanted to," he finally said. It was a short explanation after so much thought. But Jinwoo smiled. "I guess I didn't want to lose you, because I liked spending time with you." The shadow monarch had decided to become a part of Jinwoo's personality, instead of taking over his mind and body. The monarch had decided to live alongside others. And this was what happened. The shadow monarch gently removed the helmet that covered his face. Jinwoo was very surprised by what he saw. It was his own face looking back at him. But there was more. When Jinwoo looked down, he saw he was covered in armor, as dark as night, just like the shadow monarch's armor. They looked like perfect copies of each other. The shadow monarch meant this exactly. He had become like Jinwoo, and Jinwoo had become like him. "It doesn't matter who controls your body," one of the beings said. They were already acting as one. "So I will let you choose." The shadow monarch lifted his left hand, and people Jinwoo loved and missed appeared before him. "You can rest peacefully forever, with the happy memories you've made here." There was President Go laughing, Jinwoo's mother as she was before she became sick, and even a younger Jinwoo himself. "But if you don't choose that," when the shadow monarch raised his right hand, the people vanished, and a gigantic dragon flew toward him. A group of dragons flew behind and started setting fire to the city. "You need to face what's real and fight." Jinwoo sadly watched the Dragon King and his dragon army destroy everything. He then asked a question. "Why did you and the other monarchs leave for another world when you stopped fighting the rulers?" "Because I didn't belong there." The shadow monarch had once been both a ruler and a monarch, but he didn't feel like he fit in with either group. So he went looking for a place that was his own in a different world. Jinwoo made up his mind. My answer is the same as yours. The Shadow Monarch had a small smile before he even heard Jinwoo's answer. This isn't where I belong. Okay then. This is why the Shadow Monarch had picked Jinwoo. I won't see you again, will I? I will go back to resting forever. And as the Shadow Monarch you will live forever. We probably won't meet again. The Shadow Monarch seemed happy. After a long time he could finally rest. Jinwoo said goodbye to the happy monarch. Thank you for letting me do this. The monarch was quiet for a moment, and looked a little sad. With your death, your strength is finished. The path back is I know the way. Because Jinwoo was the Shadow Monarch. The Shadow Monarch smiled. After traveling for so long, he had finally found where he belonged. This is goodbye. He stepped back and quietly looked at the hunter, who nodded. Then Jinwoo said the word that would allow him to be reborn as the real Shadow Monarch. Get up. The computer voice said, as if it had been expecting this. Get up. The code to remove the player development system has been entered. The system will now be removed. Now that Jinwoo had received the powerful abilities of the Shadow Monarch, the old system began to disappear. It felt like saying goodbye to a teacher who had really helped him. Also, where did the system get the woman's voice? That's the architect's voice. The Shadow Monarch said as if everyone already knew. The architect is part of a group of people who are born with traits of both males and females. Because of this, they can make sounds that sound like either a boy's or a girl's voice. Jinwoo had often wondered where the nice and clear voice of the system came from. He never thought it would be the architect. Jinwoo felt ashamed and looked away from the Shadow Monarch, who quietly chuckled. Hee hee. Everything about Jinwoo pleased the Shadow Monarch. He thought Jinwoo was worth going back on his word to the architect. Even though keeping promises and trust were very important to him. A quick sadness showed in the Shadow Monarch's eyes. The limits on Jinwoo's strength were now gone. All Shadow soldiers who the Monarch had chosen as leaders would get their powers back. Marshal Igris would regain his strength. Marshal Baru would become much more powerful. The old Shadow Monarch Ashbourne would return to the empty darkness. Jinwoo had been listening quietly to all of this. He looked up and saw the Shadow Monarch watching him. In this place of death, Jinwoo now understood what the Monarch had been through because of the memories they shared. He said a sincere goodbye. Goodbye, my king. May you find peace in the afterlife. The system sent a final message. It asked if he really wanted to delete the system. Options for yes and no appeared before him. Jinwoo turned to look at the Shadow Monarch. The king of the dead didn't stop smiling, because it would be the last thing they saw. Jinwoo smiled back and gave the system his final command. Yes. Suddenly a strong wind blew with a bright flash, pushing the Fang Monarch and Frost Monarch backward. The Fang Monarch quickly stood up straight, and his eyebrows moved quickly. A piece of shining power. The man standing before them wore a long robe and glowed with gold light, a sign of the rulers. He was a human using the ruler's power. But why was this person protecting one of the strongest monarchs? The Frost Monarch shouted at him. The person you are trying to keep safe will cause a lot of problems. Do you realize you might be helping to bring disaster upon everyone? The man didn't say anything. Instead he lifted both hands to his chin, holding a knife in each one, with the handle facing backwards. He wouldn't move. The Frost Monarch frowned at the man's strong will. This unusual man was trying to use a ruler's power, while still in his human form, but human bodies couldn't handle a god's strength. Unless the ruler completely took control of the human body like the monarchs did, the body would fall apart, and yet he was risking his life to bring the Shadow Monarch back to life. What were the rulers thinking? The Frost Monarch looked at the Fang Monarch, wondering the same thing. The man didn't have much time left. The Lion King gave a signal, and both big cats rushed toward him, one from the right and one from the left. But the man was quick and blocked their sharp claws and the spear they carried, while also managing to strike back at them. He moved like a skilled fighter who had been in many battles. Even though he was in a dangerous situation, he showed he was a strong and capable opponent. Boom! The man in the robe stopped the weapons aimed at him, and pushed his attackers back. The two powerful leaders landed some distance away. They understood it would be hard to stop fighting if they kept battling so closely. Tap, tap. The man remained where he was, instead of following the leaders, as if his only job was to guard the special ship. Who are you? Asked the Frost leader. wanting to know the man's name, but the man did not answer. Just then, the Fang leader changed from his wolf form. "I will go back." His sharp teeth disappeared, and his long claws became human fingernails. The Frost Monarch called after him. "You are leaving now, after we have come so far. Are you crazy? Don't you feel it?" The Fang Monarch looked up. He noticed a change in the air that made him shake. The magical energy feels upset. The Shadow Monarch is on his way. The Fang Monarch looked away from the sky and back at the Frost Monarch. "I am leaving, but you promised to help me fight the Shadow Monarch." The Frost Monarch said, upset, but the Fang Monarch just shrugged. "I promised to help when the Shadow Monarch was weaker. Now that he's at his full power, I have no reason to stay and fight." "So you're giving up?" the Frost Monarch asked. "So you think you're the strongest animal?" The Fang Monarch was angry. He grabbed the Frost Monarch's neck. "You don't understand how powerful the Shadow Monarch really is." The Fang Monarch had seen the Shadow Monarch fight off attacks from 6 different armies at the same time. These armies belonged to his own animal soldiers, the soldiers of the Lightning Monarch, and 4 other powerful leaders. A dangerous creature was coming, so worrying about what others thought didn't matter. Even if people laughed at him for staying close to the Dragon King, staying alive was the most important thing. He had made the correct decision to leave the Monarch of White Lightning and the King of Demons to fight on their own. The powerful Beast King did not want to ruin all he had accomplished by facing the real Shadow Monarch. As the King of Beasts, the Fang Monarch's strength came from the life force of living things. Because of this, nothing scared him more than death itself. The Fang Monarch did not have time to argue with the Frost Monarch. He felt danger getting very close. He released his grip on the Frost Monarch's neck and created a magical doorway for himself. "I hope things go well for you." With those words, the King of Beasts went through the doorway and disappeared. The Frost Monarch stared angrily at the closing doorway. Silly. How could someone be called the best hunter if they left an easy target alone? The Frost Monarch was ready to do anything to defeat the Shadow Monarch, even if others got involved. He had trapped his enemy near a cliff, so he didn't need any help from someone afraid to fight. The determined Frost Monarch changed into a spirit form. He wasn't from this world, so keeping this shape used up a lot of his energy. He needed to finish quickly before the Shadow Monarch woke up. Feel the cold of frost. Small human. The Frost Monarch turned into a wild snowstorm. The powerful storm raged as it looked at the man wearing the robe. "Feel my greatest strength." Magical crystals in the air came together and formed thousands of icicles. They flew quickly through the air like icy spears, and each one was strong enough to seriously hurt anyone. The strong winds tossed cars around as if they were playthings, and powerful gusts tore buildings apart. Even with all of this happening, the man wearing the robe stayed firm and tried his best to protect Jinwoo, getting hurt by many icy spears. The Frost Monarch didn't stop attacking. "My soldiers." Thousands of soldiers made of ice came out of the snow, that was as high as their knees. "Attack." The ice soldiers jumped at the man wearing a robe. He fought hard to push away the pieces of ice coming at him from every side. Clink. The man fell a little when an ice spear poked his shoulder. He squeezed his teeth and stood up straight, continuing to fight against the soldiers. Seeing the man in the robe still fighting, the Frost Monarch started to attack too. He changed into a form made of cold, icy energy, and white steam floated up from his body as he walked closer. "Get out of the way." His icy followers quickly moved aside, standing before the man wearing the robe. The Frost Monarch opened his mouth to speak. A very cold feeling started in his mouth. The air around him began to freeze, and frost formed on the man's chin where his robe didn't cover it. The man knew he couldn't handle much more of this cold, but he also knew that if he moved, Jinwoo would be the one hurt. The man wearing the robe stood firm. The monarch's face became very angry. This human was only using power from another powerful being, so how could he act so boldly in front of such great strength? A blast of freezing cold energy shot out of the angry monarch's mouth. Whoosh! The man put his arms across his chest to protect himself from the icy energy. His arms suddenly stopped working after the explosion, and he couldn't move them anymore. He was unable to protect himself from the next series of quick attacks. Boom! Boom! With each hit, the man's chest and shoulders wobbled, but he stayed standing with his feet firmly on the ground. He kept fighting even though blood was collecting around his feet. How dare this ordinary person? The Frost Monarch lifted his right arm, Freezing energy covered his arm, creating a huge pillar of ice. Would the man be strong enough to survive this attack? The Frost Monarch dropped the pillar of ice, hoping to defeat the human and destroy the Shadow Monarch's hiding place. The ice fell quickly toward the man. He lifted his arms above his head, ready to protect Jinwoo, no matter what. He would shield Jinwoo, even if it meant his arms were broken, or he was completely crushed. He glowed as he used all of the ruler's strength. Boom! They crashed together. But he didn't feel a thing. What was happening? He looked up and saw someone standing before him. It was someone in dark black armor. Long red hair flowed from the black helmet. Igris was a faithful servant of the Shadow Monarch. The Frost Monarch was surprised when Igris used both hands to stop and push aside the pillar of ice, completely blocking his attack. Igris the Bloodred, seeing a marshal appear, meant only one thing was happening.